Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We're back here with episode 11 of the K2N vlog. This week I have some footage of flying an amma in the OC6, and I'll talk about some of the progression that goes into that, and I'll splice in some random OC6 footage that I do have available on my phone here. I was picking up an outrigger canoe that I'm refurbishing for the club here in Hernando, and as I was picking it up from this guy, he's like, hey, I got this really cool dragon boat statue thing. I'm like, dude, I'll take it. So I have this here. This is another thing on my art project list that I'm gonna try and refurbish and touch up the paint and try to sand and revitalize the wood a little bit. So before we get into the footage, this week's talking point, I wanna talk about the OC6 dragon boat, the team paddling boat conundrum. It ends up being like a paradox. And this situation and conversation has come up many times since I started a club organization. And so ultimately the paradox, the conundrum is if you only paddle in a team boat, your ability to progress over time is highly limited in comparison to somebody that spends all of their time in an individual boat. And so it's a funny dynamic where finding somebody that paddles by themselves all of the time is likely more equipped to move a team boat faster than somebody that spends all of their time in a team boat. This is, again, a paradox. You would think the person that spends the time in the thing would make the thing go faster, but if they use another thing and there is now an advantage to that, we have a conversation. Typically, the larger the boat, meaning the more passengers there are, the worse this paradox becomes. If somebody only paddles in a 20-person dragon boat 3 times a week, comparatively to somebody that spends the same amount of time and effort in a single-person boat, the person paddling solo will progress much faster. Why? In a team boat, everybody is responsible for grabbing water and creating glide. The more glide that is created, the harder it is to grab and connect with the water. If a vessel is only going 3 or 4 miles an hour, anybody can stick a blade in the water, find pressure, and move it faster than that base speed. If a vessel is moving 10, 11, or 12 miles per hour, the ability to put a blade into the water and make a meaningful connection in a fraction of a second is a highly specialized skill. So what happens is as the boat speed starts to climb, you have a number of people within this crew that cannot produce more energy to make the boat go faster. The blade goes in the water, the blade comes out of the water, but there was nothing gained from that. There's no meaningful connection, there's no power output that is put into the water, and now your progress is stifled. And sure, you can get tired and you can get a workout from moving quickly to get your heart rate going, but your ability to use a tool, to place it into the water, feel a connection, and move the boat forward, this is the foundation of what makes a paddler better. If you take that component away, going through the motion is not what makes you a better paddler. The connection that you can find is. In a single person boat, you are 100% responsible for all of the glide that is created. When you put the blade in the water, you find a connection, you create a glide that is equivalent to your skill level. So now that it's all proportional, when you put the blade into the water, you're able to get as much out of that stroke as possible. And you also have the time and the freedom of movement to make adjustments to now progress forward. We look at world level racing, it is most prominent within the open category. This conundrum is much less as you start to go up in the age ladder, simply because all of the paddlers paddle in team boats exclusively as you go further up that age ladder. So now it's a level playing field. If I spend all my time in a dragon boat and you do as well, we don't have an advantage on each other. But looking at the open, it's like a Cold War's arms race. Everybody's trying to find whatever little advantage they can get over anybody else. So again, at the world level, a majority of the paddlers that are in a team boat don't paddle a team boat on a regular basis. They typically try out for it, they do practices with that team, and they go to these national and world level events, but the other 99% of their time is in small boats. This all comes to a head when you introduce the idea of time trials. Paddlers that spend all their time in a team boat instantaneously realize how unequipped they are when you put them into a single person paddling dynamic. And it's of no fault of their own necessarily, it is just the environment that they're in does not promote individual growth. A great way to look at it is when you go to the gym to work out, it is you lifting the weight, right? You put 100 pounds on a barbell, you lift all of it. And it's a very linear progression. You put 10 more pounds on it, 20 more pounds, and you're making this progress. Now imagine you go to the gym and you have 5 additional people helping you to lift the weight. Now when you put 100 pounds on a barbell, you have 12 hands on this bar, and when it lifts up, how much weight were you responsible for lifting? So now we have this ambiguous answer where, did I lift all of that weight or did I lift none of it? All 6 of us lift that weight 20 times. Did I do 20 repetitions of 100 pounds? Is my ability to progress, if we put 10 pounds on there, a clear goal? Am I even getting stronger? In a gym setting, that's very ridiculous because it's very easy. Oh yeah, I'm not lifting any weight. But for some reason, when we paddle in an OC6 or a dragon boat, people cannot comprehend if they are helping, if they are feeling this connection with the water, and if they are progressing. A lot of people are simply passengers in a seat going through the motion, and the boat just rockets forward from the success of the people around them. Since March of this year, we have had about 7 ladies that have learned OC1. Most of these ladies within my organization have been part of it for a number of years, where they have only paddled in the larger boats, exclusively the dragon boat and the OC6. We have this morning practice, everybody comes out, they're all learning, they're all going about the same speed, nobody can steer, there's all these skills that they have to learn, but the primary thing that we're trying to figure out is, if they get faster in that boat, when we put them back into the team boat, does it increase in speed? We already have years of them paddling the team boat, and we have these pretty consistent speeds. As they progress in the OC1, the speeds start to go from 4.5 to 4.8 to 5.2 to 5.5, and now we have these refined skill sets of people that are adequately able to keep a pace, find pressure in the water, move their body adequately to find more glide than they did when they started. And so their time in team boats is highly limited. Most of them do not come to dragon boat practice, or they only paddle OC6 once a week. So now when we reinsert them into this boat, the speeds are dramatically higher than they were when we started in March. If they had paddled 3 times a week in the OC6 from March to now, I do not believe that the boat speed would have jumped as dramatically as it has. It was only because they as individuals were in a setting that allowed them to be prosperous, allowed them to figure it out, then reinsert them back into the team dynamic to showcase that skill set. And I think that's the best way to summarize it, is it's simply math, right? The higher the value above your head on how fast you can make a boat go, teamed up with somebody else with a higher value, spits out a better number. And that number is race performance, and that's what we're trying to hone. So spend time in the individual boat, work on your technique, and progress. So to the OC6 footage. In the video here, we're in a unlimited boat, so it's a bit lighter to get the amma up. And this is my first time flying the amma with a group of paddlers that have little to no experience doing it. In an OC2, I can take a complete novice and my blade is going to do a lot of the work, so we're not going to just fly over. In an OC6, my ability to brace to compensate for 5 human weights is not present. I need at least 1 or 2 people that have this idea down. If nobody is very good at it, it is important to go through the systematic steps to teach them the feeling on the top of the water with the blade, leaning their body weight on it, and utilizing this brace mechanic. But it's a cool showcase of having a skill set, giving it to people to use, and having instant gratification as they're able to have a tangible end result. A lot of technique is a long and arduous road. If you do this and you practice this, in 5 months you might go faster. It's a very hard thing to try and stay vigilant with to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Flying the amma is great. Do this, do that. Oh my God, I'm doing it, right? It's super quick and intuitive. Hope you all enjoy the footage as well as some steering and OC6 footage that I do have spliced in. Thank you all so much for checking out the series, and we'll see you all next week for episode number 12. All right, so we're here in clear water going through with the unlimited canoe, and we got a crew of 5 here, 4 plus myself. So the first thing that we're gonna do is paddle on the right side together. This is the first part of the progression, is just figuring out the feel of the boat as everybody's paddling on the right side. The canoe's gonna turn left a lot, so I'm gonna have to poke right side a bunch of times throughout this video as I'm joining in with them. Using the paddle to brace and maximize the surface area, the top of the water, to put weight on is the ultimate goal as we progress into flying the amma. So right here we got everybody paddling on the right side. This is a second crew, 6 people.
putting the blade on top of the water, leaning the body on there, and finding that pressure on the blade and using it as a crutch. As we're going through, leaning to the side here is going to raise the amma up. The next step with the brace is to lean left and put the amma back down. Ultimately, when we brace, it slows down time, just like the footage here, to allow you to shift your body weight over and put the amma back down. Paddlers that can't brace means that the canoe is just going to flip spontaneously and there's nothing you can do about it. So here we go through the procedure, paddle on the right side, everybody begins the brace process, leaning to the side, finding that tipping point where the amma is going to lift in the air, and it's right here. The moment it comes up, we all lean to the left and drop the amma back down. So flying the amma is getting to that balance point where the amma is in the air and you freeze frame and allow it to hold. So that's something that we're gonna try and do here. So we're leaning to the side, lifting the amma, dropping it back down, getting a feel for the boat, feeling the limitations of how far the boat can go and how we can control it. Lean to the side, so this is just another one of going through that procedure. Everybody paddles right side, bracing, lean, drop the amma back in the water. Excellent, so we got, I believe, this one here. We should be flying the amma. So again, flying the amma, we get the paddles in position, the amma is hovering in the air, and we just freeze frame right there. So it hovers through the air for 2 or 3 seconds. I'm very happy that that all worked out as we were working pretty diligently. So this is crew number 2 going through this same procedure. Leaning to the side, lifting the amma up, holding it for a few seconds. It got a little higher than I was comfortable with, so I leaned to the side to help drop that back down. So welcome back to Lake Hernando. So we got some OC6 steering footage here. So one of the big things that we do here at Hernando is Monday, Wednesdays, we fill any kind of boat based on attendance. We got OC, surf skis, the OC6, and we race each other. We go out and paddle. You can see it's more lighthearted in nature than real racing, but you still go through a lot of the dynamic parts of pacing, drafting, turning, and these are all the skills that are necessary to hone when you do go out and race in larger scale races, to have all these skills to your advantage. So I have my wife here in the surf ski, she's drafting right behind us. Part of the steering of an OC6 is managing your position in conjunction with other boats. A lot of OC6 go on the water and they're the only boat on the water, so when they do race those OC6s, it's hard to manage space and steer properly. So you see that a lot. It's something that we try to practice here in Hernando twice a week, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, depending on attendance and the scheduling. So we paddle about a 5-kilometer loop. Once the loop is completed, we line up and we do a 400-meter sprint at the end here. So we got 2 of the surf skis here and the OC6 all lined up. Surf skis jump off the start line a little quicker than the big OC6, so it's up to us to work together, push hard, and try and make up ground on some of the faster boats, especially the surf skis having 2 blades. Looking at seat 6, so I'm here steering. The more paddle strokes that I can integrate in to control the boat, the faster we can move as a team forward, right? If I poke too much and too often, too long, or let the boat drift to the side, our chances of being successful are highly limited. So if you're a steersman and you want to make your boat go faster, it's up to you to figure out how to take more forward strokes. We've talked about this in a previous video, 90% and higher in flat water of strokes. And then if you're in the ocean, looking for 80%. So we have a brand new person in seat 5, and I pointed out to him, you see these people over here, we're gonna go kick their butts. So we have a bunch of boats out. We have a few OC1s, the surf ski, and then the OC2 on the side. Nancy in seat 5 there is brand new. I think this was her first or second time in an OC6 ever. It's fun integrating in brand new paddlers into the OC6, especially into seat 5. They can mess up or stop paddling, and the success of the crew around them helps get them out on the water and learn some of the basics. Just like with the commentary on this video here, if Nancy were to stop paddling, this boat would not slow down much because her ability to grab water and move the boat forward is highly limited because she's new. If she spent more time in a single boat over time, she would get more out of it than in the OC6 in this scenario. But again, she's absolutely brand new, so just going through the motion, being out on the race course, learning the switches and the timing, those are some of the important factors that you do get out of this boat. when we look at long-term progression, that's when the implication of the smaller boats is more prevalent. So my wife's steering the OC2 here, drafting behind us, navigating the turn pretty well. Again, with spatial management, we race these boats all the time for years and years, right? So for myself personally, when I'm steering an OC6, or if I'm in an OC1 or OC2, I am not elevated in my heart rate if I'm 3 inches away from another boat. It's part of racing because I know I'm in control of my vessel and I trust the people around me to, be controlling their vessel as well. Many paddlers that paddle alone, and they can't paddle in a scenario like this where you got, a 45-foot boat and a 25-foot boat side by side like that. When it does come time to race, they are easily flustered, right? They get angry quickly. They don't know how to manage this space, right? Because they just haven't lived it and they only experience it during races. And those are paddlers that are easy to, kind of get off of their game because of, that situation. So we got the 400-meter sprint here as well. Bunch of the boats jumping out. We got the GoPro here on the Dragon Boat oar, so it's 9 feet off the water here. Makes some pretty fun dynamic footage. So that is it. We got the flying the amma, some more steering footage from our daily, weekly practices here at Lake Hernando. Thank you guys so much for checking out the footage, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not, to see all of our future videos. If there's anything that you would like to see discussed or videoed here on the vlog or in general, leave a comment, send me an email, any kind of messaging system. If you can get in contact and you have a good idea, please let me know. Thank you all again. We'll see you next week for episode number 12.